know that apart from family controversy, James Brown had a molestation case which nobody knew about? Yes, you heard that right. Join us as we uncover the terrible secret Brown died with by unveiling how his scandalous past just got back to the spotlight. Molestation controversy. In 2005, Jacques Hollander initiated legal proceedings alleging that she was molested by Brown in 1988, during which he purportedly threatened her with a firearm. Hollander recounted that the harassment occurred after she had been collaborating with Brown on public relations efforts in exchange for his assistance with her songwriting aspirations. She recalled an encounter with Brown and his attorney, Albert Dallas, in April 1988 at Brown's office, located in Augusta, Georgia. Following their meeting, Brown allegedly instructed Hollander to accompany him to inspect a customized vehicle. While proceeding to her car, Hollander observed Brown carrying what appeared to be a firearm, which she presumed was for protection, and subsequently entered his vehicle. However, the situation quickly escalated into a distressing ordeal. Brown drove recklessly, disregarding her pleas to reduce his speed. Hollander characterized his behavior as paranoid, noting that he was foaming at the mouth and speaking nonsensically. After veering off the highway, Brown took her to an isolated site in South Carolina, where he allegedly threatened her with the firearm and molested her for several hours, during which he reportedly inflicted physical and psychological torment before returning her to his office. He allegedly warned Hollander that if she disclosed the incident, he would have her eliminated. In 2000, Hollander was diagnosed with Graves' disease, an autoimmune disorder that can impact the thyroid. It was not until 2003 that a medical professional established a connection between her condition and the trauma she endured in 1988. This delay in recognizing the relationship between her illness and the molestation became a remarkable aspect of her legal argument, as she contended that the statute of limitations for filing a lawsuit should commence only upon her discovery of this link, which occurred significantly after the original incident. Conversely, Brown's legal team contended that Hollander's allegations were precluded by the statute of limitations in Illinois, which mandates that personal injury lawsuits be filed within 2 years of the injury. The defendants assert that the alleged incident occurred in 1988, and since Hollander did not initiate her lawsuit until 2005, her claims are time-barred. Conversely, Hollander contends that the discovery rule should be applicable in this case. This legal principle posits that the statute of limitations does not commence until the injured party becomes aware of the injury and its cause. Additionally, Hollander argued that threats made by Brown instilled a sense of fear that prevented her from coming forward sooner. Ultimately, the court ruled in favor of James, dismissing the case on the grounds that Hollander's claims were filed too late, as she should have recognized the harm stemming from the events of 1988. This ruling underscores the difficulties associated with pursuing legal action after a significant passage of time, particularly in sensitive and intricate matters such as molestation and harassment. While this is one of the untold story about James Brown's life, it is worthy to note that this was not the only controversy he experienced. Now, let's get to the very interesting part: family problems and unresolved issues. James experienced 4 marriages, although only 3 were legally recognized. His initial union was with Velma Warren, with whom he had a son. After more than a decade together, they separated and subsequently divorced. However, they maintained a strong friendship until his passing. His second marriage occurred in 1970 to Deidre Day Jenkins, resulting in 2 daughters. This relationship was fraught with difficulties, including allegations of domestic maltreatment, leading to their separation and eventual divorce in 1981. James's third marriage was to Adrienne Lois Rodriguez, characterized by significant conflict, including accusations of domestic maltreatment. Adrienne alleged that he had damaged her $35,000 mink coat, although she later withdrew the charges. Rodriguez sought a divorce on the grounds of cruelty, yet the couple reconciled despite their challenging relationship. ultimately having 3 children: Terry, Teddy, and Larry. Even after their separation in April 1994, public interest in their relationship persisted. Tragically, Adrienne passed away in 1996 at the age of 45. Less than a year following her death, James entered into a 4th marriage with Tommy Ray Heine, whom he had hired to perform in his band. They held a wedding ceremony in 2002 when James was 69 and Heine was 33. In 2004, at the age of 70, James faced arrest for domestic harassment against Heine. However, this marriage was never formally recognized, despite Heine's claims of being his 4th wife. The death of James Brown was accompanied by significant confusion and controversy regarding his marriage to Tommy Ray Heine. It was revealed that Heine was still legally married to another individual, Javed Ahmed, from Bangladesh at the time of her marriage to Brown. Heine asserted that her marriage to Ahmed was a mere arrangement for immigration purposes, claiming it was intended to be annulled, although this annulment did not occur until April 2004. This situation raised serious questions about the legality of her subsequent marriage to Brown. To substantiate her claim of a legitimate marriage to Brown, Heine presented a marriage certificate during a CNN interview with Larry King. However, she failed to provide any court documents that would validate her marriage to Brown or confirm the annulment of her marriage to Ahmed prior to her union with Brown. James Brown's attorney, Albert Dallas, indicated that Brown was distressed upon learning that Heine had concealed her previous marriage. Brown expressed a desire to annul his marriage to her. Dallas further noted that despite Heine's marriage to Ahmed being annulled, the marriage between Brown and Heine remained invalid under South Carolina law, as they did not remarry following the annulment. In 2003, Brown publicly announced their separation in Variety magazine, which included a photograph of Heine, Brown, and his son James II, taken at Disney World. For several years, legal disputes ensued regarding Heine's status as Brown's widow. In 2015, a judge ultimately ruled that Heine was legally recognized as Brown's widow for the purposes of estate division, determining that her marriage to Ahmed was invalid and that Brown had ceased efforts to annul his marriage to Heine. However, in 2020, the South Carolina Supreme Court determined that Heine was not legally married to Brown, as she had not annulled her previous marriage to Ahmed prior to her union with Brown. Consequently, the court ruled that Heine had no claim to any portion of Brown's estate. This ruling led to further uncertainty regarding the distribution of Brown's assets and possessions following his death. When you think you've seen enough of Brown's family controversy, then came the issue about the children he had out of wedlock. Just keep watching, as we're about to reveal a very crucial fact about Brown's deeds that affected his life. The DNA results. James fathered numerous children throughout his life, officially recognizing 11 offspring, which included 5 sons and 6 daughters. Tragically, 2 of these children passed away during James's lifetime, profoundly affecting him. His first son, Teddy Brown, was born in 1954 to his first wife, Velma Warren. Teddy was raised in a household where music was central, coinciding with his father's burgeoning career. Unfortunately, Teddy's life was abruptly ended in a car accident in 1973, when he was just 19 years old, leaving a deep void for James and the family. Another significant loss occurred years later with the passing of Venetia Brown, James's daughter, with soul singer Yvonne Fair. Born in 1964, Venetia followed in her father's footsteps, performing alongside him and showcasing her vibrant dance moves. Sadly, in 2018, Venetia succumbed to complications from pneumonia. In addition to his children, James was also the grandfather of 8 and the great-grandfather of 4. Yet his family life was not without its difficulties. DNA analysis has indicated that James Brown fathered several children outside of his marriages. One of the earliest confirmed offspring is LaRonda Pettit, born in 1962, who later pursued careers as a flight attendant and a teacher. Another purported son, Michael Dion Brown, was born in 1968 However, James never formally acknowledged him, despite engaging in legal disputes regarding paternity. In his later years, James sought a DNA test to establish the paternity of his son, James Brown Jr., born in 2001. The results confirmed that James Brown Jr. was indeed his biological child. Now that we've seen the consequences of his promiscuous lifestyle, let's look at some unbelievable stories about Brown. Intriguing details about James Brown. James Brown's vibrant energy and fervor on stage distinguished him from his contemporaries. By the 1960s, he had become a household name, with his live album, Live at the Apollo, achieving iconic status. Songs like I Got You and Papa's Got a Brand New Bag further heightened his fame. However, Brown's artistic evolution did not halt with rhythm and blues. In the late 1960s, he began to innovate his musical style, emphasizing the creation of new, simpler, yet more powerful rhythms. This experimentation led to the emergence of funk music, a genre that gained immense popularity in the 1970s, exemplified by tracks such as The Payback. Brown was also known for his strict approach to his band members, imposing fines for mistakes during performances. This practice was not merely a warning, but a genuine penalty, with fines ranging from $5 to $30, depending on the severity of the error. For Brown, this system was compared to a game, although with real financial consequences. The members of the band understood the necessity of maintaining their focus, as any lapse could have significant repercussions. The thought of making an error while under the scrutinizing gaze of James Brown was daunting. However, the stakes extended beyond financial implications. It was fundamentally about honoring the music and the performance itself. James Brown demanded excellence from his ensemble, ensuring they remained attentive and disciplined. His stringent expectations contributed to the legendary status of his performances, instilling in the band a perpetual sense of vigilance. James' life was marked by a series of highs and lows, including legal issues that frequently made headlines. In 1988, he was convicted for possessing a deadly weapon, attempting to evade law enforcement, and driving under the influence of substance. The incident that precipitated these charges began when he stormed into an insurance office near his workplace, brandishing a firearm and claiming that strangers were using his bathroom. By this time, rumors regarding his illegal substance use had already begun to circulate. A jury ultimately found him guilty of failing to stop when signaled by an officer and 2 counts of aggravated harassment. The situation escalated when police arrived. Brown fled in his truck, leading officers on a chaotic pursuit across Georgia and South Carolina. He attempted to ram police vehicles, prompting law enforcement to fire at his tires. Remarkably, even after losing 2 tires, Brown continued to drive for an additional 6 miles on the rims. This dramatic episode was later depicted in the 2014 film Get On Up, which chronicled Brown's life. Earlier in the same year, he had been convicted of simple harassment and battery involving a police officer, and in July, he pleaded guilty to resisting arrest in South Carolina, which was classified as a lesser offense, along with unlawful carrying of a pistol and a no-contest plea to possession of illegal substance. This was not Brown's first encounter with the law. He had endured a challenging upbringing in South Carolina, characterized by poverty. For example, he was incarcerated for car theft at the age of 15. However, even during his time in prison, music remained his fervent passion. He participated in the prison choir and formed a band upon his release. His unwavering determination and innate talent propelled him to prominence, establishing him as a pioneer in the realms of soul and R&B music. His influence extended to iconic figures such as Michael Jackson and Mick Jagger. He earned the title, the hardest working man in show business, a title that aptly reflected the electrifying nature of his performances. Nevertheless, Brown's success did not shield him from legal troubles, particularly during the tumultuous 1980s. In 1985, the IRS confiscated his 62-acre estate due to tax debts. He served 3 years of a 6-year sentence and was released in 1991, but difficulties continued to plague him. In 1998, he faced arrest once more for discharging a firearm at his residence in South Carolina, and subsequently leading police on a pursuit. This incident resulted in his enrollment in a substance rehabilitation program. Despite these efforts, Brown's battle with addiction persisted, and it never stopped him from going to various trouble. Speaking of troubles, do you know Brown and Joe Tex had issues that almost cost them their lives? To understand how everything unveiled, watch this. Fighting with fellow musician. Interestingly, both James Brown and Joe Tex were embroiled in a feud that escalated to the point of near-fatal violence. Indeed, James Brown once attempted to fire Joe Tex with a firearm, resulting in injuries to several individuals and marking the rivalry as one of the most notorious tales in music history. This conflict originated in the 1950s, when both artists were signed to King Records. It all started when Joe Tex had composed and recorded a song titled "Baby, You're Right." But a year later, James Brown altered the lyrics and music, releasing it as his own, while crediting himself as a co-writer. The lack of proper recognition for Joe Tex and witnessing his song transformed into a hit undoubtedly fueled the ongoing drama, because it didn't end there. To make matters worse, James Brown became entangled with Joe Tex's former spouse, B. Ford, and the two even collaborated on a song titled "You've Got the Power, I Need You." Following this, James sent a letter to Joe, expressing his desire to end the relationship and offering Joe the opportunity to reclaim her if he wished. However, Joe Tex was unyielding and retaliated with a diss track entitled "You Keep Her," in which he openly ridiculed James, asserting that she rightfully belonged to him. The tension between the two artists reached a boiling point during James Brown's highly publicized homecoming concert in Macon, Georgia. Joe Tex, who opened the event, chose to mock James directly on his own stage by donning a tattered cape and theatrically pretending to struggle with it, rolling on the floor and exclaiming for assistance to escape the cape. This act was a pointed reference to James Brown's iconic cape routine, and it was evident that James did not find the humor in it. An eyewitness characterized Joe Tex's performance as a blatant derision of James, as he mimicked James's dramatic flair in an effort to humiliate him on such a significant occasion. The situation escalated when James lost his composure, leading to a chaotic atmosphere at the after-party. Following the concert, events took a startling turn at Club 15, where James arrived, reportedly not merely for conversation. Accounts suggest that he brought with him 2 firearms. Witnesses recounted that he burst into the club, where Otis Redding and his band were performing, in search of Joe Tex. What transpired next was nearly unbelievable. Witnesses claimed that James began firing, injuring 6 or 7 individuals before fleeing in his tour bus. Johnny Jenkins later confirmed that 7 people were fired at that night, describing the scene as utter chaos, with the artists seeking refuge behind a piano. Subsequently, someone circulated $100 to each injured party to ensure their silence regarding the incident, effectively allowing the story to fade from public attention. As this story faded away, little did Brown know that stories about his death will fade away too without getting justice. Check out what happened to James Brown. James Brown's suspicious death. The mysterious things surrounding Brown's passing stirred up numerous questions regarding the nature of his death. Although he was reported to have died from natural causes, some individuals suspect that there may be more to the story. Prior to his death, Brown had been hospitalized on December 23rd, where medical professionals observed indications of heart failure and a mild heart attack. Dr. Marvin Crawford, his physician, considered these issues manageable, and Brown appeared to be recovering, quote, well after treatment. By Christmas Eve, it seemed likely that he would be discharged from the hospital. However, by 1 a.m. the following day, James Brown had unexpectedly passed away. Dr. Crawford expressed his astonishment, as he had not anticipated such a sudden turn of events, and he raised concerns about the circumstances in the hospital room. This was not the only peculiar aspect surrounding his death. Charles Bobbitt, the personal manager of James Brown, was present during Brown's final moments. Bobbitt recounted that Brown expressed a sensation of intense burning in his chest shortly after lying down, leading to his subsequent passing. Bobbitt was by his side at the time of death, and the abruptness of this event raised suspicions. Even the physician who completed Brown's death certificate harbored doubts regarding the naturalness of the cause of death, sensing that something was amiss. Andre White, a close friend of Brown, was also at the hospital. He had been with Brown for the majority of his hospitalization, but had stepped out briefly upon learning of Brown's demise. Upon returning, White conversed with a nurse who informed him that an unfamiliar individual had visited Brown just prior to the alarming decline in his health. The nurse also noted the presence of an unusual residue in Brown's medical tubing. She collected a blood sample, which she then provided to White, who preserved the vial in hopes that it could be analyzed in the future to uncover the truth behind the events of that night. Additionally, several individuals close to Brown indicated that he had intentions to leave South Carolina prior to his death, believing he sought to distance himself from his lawyer and accountant, with whom he had been dissatisfied. However, these plans appeared to have been unfulfilled. At least 13 individuals have raised questions regarding the circumstances surrounding James Brown's death and are seeking clarity. Prior to his passing, there were indications that he was contemplating a move to New York. Frank Kopsidas, Brown's manager, informed CNN that Brown preferred to keep his plans private due to concerns that his accountant, Cannon, and a business associate named Dallas might attempt to thwart his intentions. Brown's potential relocation to New York had the capacity to significantly alter his business connections and personal life. However, an even more startling revelation emerged following Brown's passing. Cannon, who served as Brown's accountant, was discovered to have illicitly appropriated over $8 million from the artist. A portion of these funds was utilized to construct a mansion in Honduras in 2010. Cannon faced legal charges for this offense and ultimately received a 10-year suspended sentence after entering an Alford plea, which allowed him to avoid admitting guilt while accepting the consequences. Additionally, Cannon held the position of trustee over Brown's finances, granting him authority over a segment of Brown's income for management purposes. So what do you think about James Brown's life? Do you think there was a suspicious thing about his life that was connected to his death? Let us know in the comment section. If you want more interesting revelations about your favorite rock icon, be sure to like, subscribe, and watch the next video shown on your screen. See you there.